Hi viewers, let's see the app we are going to develop in the next couple of lessons. The app is connected to the Firebase database, right? And you will see there's a main menu where you got employee options and listing all employees. This table view controller we have put here, right? And when you click on employee details, you will be taken to a page where you can add, insert, search, delete employee data, right? So let us say in this Firebase database, you can see in the background, let's say I want to search for records and delete them, right? So let's say I select one and search. You can see it loads the data from the database. And let's say if I delete it, right, it deletes the data from the Firebase real-time database. That's awesome, right? So let's start. Let's say if you want to insert a new record, right? So you can say employee number one, let's say Anne, right? And let's say a salary of 50,000, right? And let's say Anne is from Melbourne, right? Awesome, right? If you click save, you can see it real time updates a Firebase database. That's wonderful, right? That's about search and delete. And let's say if you want to change the salary of J, right? So you say you can search for J first using the app, right? Let's say you search and it says salary of J is 30,000. Let's say you want to make it to 40,000, right? Let's say you're going to make it, change it to 40,000 and just click save, right? You will see that it gets updated in the real-time database. That's awesome. That's wonderful. So save, delete, search functions are working. Not only that, you can just go and change a few stuff. Let's see. Awesome. So then once you are done with that, you can swipe it and list all the employees, right? That's another feature of the app we are going to develop. So you can see the data. Say, let's say you got 1, 2, 4, right? So let's say see one Peter, Anne, and Jay is there. Let's swipe this down and let's insert a new record, right? Let's say we insert record number 3. Let's put some sample data here. Okay, so let's save the data for Frank, right? Awesome. And now if you swipe down and if you go and check the list of employees, you can see Frank is there. That's an awesome feature of this app, right? And there's another nice thing of this app, right? Another awesome feature. So if multiple users, just assume if multiple users are viewing this app, right? The app you are going to develop has real-time synchronization features, right? Just assume these are two users using the app, right? And if one user add a new employee, let us say a new employee record, let's go to the bottom, say employee record 5, let me put the data first. So just assume if one user save, see what will happen to the other user phone, right? So if I click save Mary's details, awesome. See, the database got updated and on real-time synchronization, the next user will see the data being inserted, right? So that is an awesome feature of this app you are going to develop. But it's very important that you have to make sure to look at the next couple of lectures in Firebase database programming, that is part 2, part 3, until we complete this app. It explains all the theory and the practical knowledge which you need to know about developing this app, right? Okay friends, we are very excited to show you how to develop this app practically, and let's do it now. Okay viewers, so the following is the outcome of this part of the lesson. When you complete this part of the lesson, your app will look like this until you complete the other parts of the lesson. So it will give you an interface like this, right? Where you can save the data and the data will be going into the database, right? So let's quickly, so basically you enter some data and once you click the save button, right? When you click the save button, it will give a message and it will save the data successfully, right? And you can see the data is going to the database, right? But after you complete this lesson, make sure to go and look at the next lessons in order to complete the full app demonstrated earlier. Hi viewers, so this lesson is Firebase Database Programming Part 3 and we are very excited to take you through this lesson, and let's see what's inside the lesson. Tools will be used is Xcode version 11.4.1 and Apple Developer Docs. Prerequisites, you have to look at the following previous lessons on Firebase and table views in Objective-C in this series. That is Firebase Database Programming Part 1 and 2, which we have done earlier, and a bit of table views, and then look at some of the previous lessons in Objective-C. You can find all of them in this series. In this session, we will be learning to write data, that is insert data into Firebase real-time database, and of course you will be using CocoaPods. Lesson plan is going to be practical demonstrations. Okay, viewers, let's go and start the practical now. Okay, so I got my project from the previous lesson, right, which we have imported Firebase, and it was working up to that, but we got an empty storyboard, right? And then also we got an empty storyboard, and also our database is just having only the sample data, right? So if you look at our database, which we created in the previous lesson, so we are not using Firestore for this. We are using real-time database. Look at our other lesson series on Cloud Firestore, right? Okay, and yeah, so the sample data we entered, right? So we got the sample data and we got the basic app, right? Now our next step is digging detail, and when it comes to the developer docs, we are going to refer to the next section now, right? To get an our task. So I'm going to scroll in the developer docs to real-time database section, and then I'm going to check iOS, right? And we already did the get started section in the previous lesson, and we configured everything, right? So that part is very well looked after, right? And then we will be looking into reading and writing data, right? So let's look at reading and writing data in the developer guides, right? So these are the first steps to be followed, right? So make sure you select Objective C, right? So you have to have a property referring to your database inside your app. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to have a property referring to the app, to the database, right? So I'm going to copy this line of code, and I'm going to go into my project, right? And in my project, in my view controller related to this, right? So in my view controller related to this, I'm going to add that part, right? And well, let's do this, viewers. Now even before that, you need to have, let us say, a screen, right? You need to have an interface with what you call with elements where you can enter the data, right? Let's do that first, right? So you need an employee number, name, salary, address. So you need an interface. So I'm going to what I'm going to do is, first of all, before I touch the code for database, I'm going to put some labels, right? Then I'm going to put some text boxes, right? And let's design the interface first, right? Labels, text boxes, and buttons, right? Let's do it now, right? So while I'm designing this, I'm going to add some images, right? So I have fast forward the designing part, right? So I'm going to add a new group of images, and I'm going to add some images into this. So viewers, I fast forwarded the designing part, but I will show you a few important things. One thing is I have put a placeholder text. That's where you see this employee number, name, right? Over here, placeholder text, and then I have added the buttons, right? And given some colors. And then basically the outcome is, this is the outcome. So now I got the interface, right? Now the next thing is, when I click on the save button, it should save the data into the database, right? So let's go and check whether it's not happening, because I will show it to you, right? I will just show it. So if I try to put some sample data and click save, right? Let's do it now. So when I put sample data and click save, nothing happens, right? So now our objective is to put this data, save this data to the database. So let's start working on the initial parts now, right? So the first thing is, as you saw in the developer guides, you have to put this property referring to the database. So I'm going to copy it from the developer guides. Then I'm going to come into my project. I'm going to relate it into this view controller, which is the view controller.h, right? So in the view controller.h, I'm going to have this property declared, right? So this is going to refer to the database. So I'm getting some errors, right? Why is it? So I have to import the relevant modules, right? So I have to say import Firebase, right? So I have to see one by one, like, so I'm just showing it to you, right? Let's import Firebase. Let's compile and see, right? Okay, I have to put a semicolon after that, right? So if that module is sufficient, right, then this error will go off, right? If not, it will still say, right, that I need to. So in addition to the Firebase module, I'm just also going to import the Firebase database module, right? Okay. Okay, so now I'm not getting the Firebase database module. That is because if I look at my pod file, I have added the analytics, authentication, and Firestore, but not the database, right? So then I won't get that module. So I have to add that pod file. Let's refer to the developer docs for that now, right? So that is again in the developer docs under the get started section, iOS. See my mouse. See, it's there actually, like, because we have the prerequisites are done. We have the database, right? but you have to add this, see the Firebase real-time database to app, right? So you have to add this pod Firebase database, right? So I'm going to copy it, right, and I'm going to put to my pod file, right? I'm going to add it here, okay, right? Okay, and then I'm going to save this, right? But because I added it, I'm going to close this, close the workspace, right? Stop the task, and then I'm going to follow this instruction, the pod install, isn't it, right? So I have to run this, right? In this previous window, look at our previous lesson of what we did in the terminal, right? So pod install, right? And then once it's done, I'm going to open the Xcode project again. So when you open, make sure to open the XC workspace file, right? It was explained in the previous lesson very clearly to you, right? So I just opened the project again, right? And then let's go into the app now, right? So let's also finish reading this, right? So pod install, right? Configure the real-time database, right? Yeah, that was a missing step, right? This was done. Then only we should go to the property thing, right? So now let's see whether that property thing has started to work, right? So where was it? We put it in the view controller.h, right? Okay, right? So now it says it's not working. So what I have to do is let's also look at this, right? So okay, import Firebase, right? So let's say hash sorry, at import the modules. Okay, viewers, so once you add this Firebase database import the module, this will start working. Then looking at the next thing to be done, so now you have to load a reference for that, right? So you just copy this line, right, and you just load, you create the database and load the reference, right? So basically that you will be doing in the view controller.m in the view did load, right? So when this is getting loaded, you got a reference. Awesome, right? Then after that you have to start reading and writing the data, right? So in this case I want to write the data basically, right, to Firebase. That means to insert the data. So in this developer docs you will see that you got code snippets, right, referring what you have to be supporting you with some basic code snippets. Let's look into these code snippets. So if you look at this first instance, it says if you want to add some data, right, it's asking to use the set values method, right? So let's just copy this and take it to our project. This one. Let's copy this and take it to our project, right? And let's try to apply. So where do I want to put that, right? So I want to put that in my save button, right? So I got my save button. So I'm going to write code for the save button, right, to start with this, right? So I'm going to go to the assistant editor, right, and then drag this, right, into the assistant editor, right? Let's say save clicked, right, method save clicked. Awesome, right? So let's make it, right, and then let's go into that method, right, save click method. Okay, awesome, right? So then over here, right, let's put that code, right? Now once I put that code, I'm getting some errors because I just copied it from the developer docs, right? It says use of undeclared identifier auth result, right? This one, authentication result. So I don't have that actually. What I'm going to do is, now if you look at my database, immediately in my database, right? So I okay, now one more thing, right? So I need to do another change here, right? So in my sample data, in my database, I have just put employee data. But now I would like to categorize them as say employees and departments, so on and so forth, right? Employees, departments, so on and so forth. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to delete this sample data values quickly, right? And I'm going to delete this as well. And I'm going to add, let us say, like a table, like a document. We call them as document. Let's say employees, right? Employees document, right? And then in the employees document, let's say I want employee 1, right? And then I put the other details like earlier. And let me click add. So this way in my document, in my database or Firebase, I got a document called employees and I got my first employee, right? Then if I want my second employee, I'll be doing the same thing like this, add the details of the second employee, right? Likewise, right? So I'm going to do that now. Awesome. So I'm going to click add. So now my document or the database has a main child called employees. Then inside that I got couple of employees. So why did I do that?